You bring up intervals that you would do. So, doing the zone 2, big zone 2, doing some of the low cadence. Then you mentioned as you're getting towards racing, people like some specifics. You mentioned like 6x2 VO2 max. It seems like VO2 max is your interval set that you'll go to. Am I getting that vibe
Yeah,
correctly? Or
yeah, or
what do you go, are you going to say 30-30s or what's
yeah,
your
30.
jam?
And a thing that's like, from the coach I had for years, I had for almost 10 years, Andy Applegate. He
Mm,
coaches for CTS. He lives
mm,
in Asheville now in California. I still have all these workouts saved, his VO2 stuff saved. And he great guy, great coach. And so to me, it's anything. Like he'd have like some workouts were 10 by a minute and a half. First minute was at VO2 and then a 30-second attack, and you do 3 minutes. To me, it doesn't really matter to
mm,
me. Like,
mm.
but VO2, if you're just going to do 6x2, it's VO2, but it's not really race prep, right? Because when in a race, do you sit there and do a perfect VO2
Right,
and then a rest? So
right.
to me, it's more like, you can do the VO2 stuff, but also like he'd have certain ones that were like, you could make a heap of them up. So I don't really get too possessive over what they are. I just know that I'm going to get a benefit from that.
So you make a really good point that I think is kind of what we were talking about before about there have been intervals that I see people in forums be like, but what is this physiologically working? And it's become this like, I'm only training VO2. I'm only working on threshold. And people will poo poo on like give a 30-second attack, ride in a pace line for 2 minutes at like tempo, push it at
Yeah,
thresh-hold, and then go ballistic for a minute. And they're like, well, what does that
that's a
work? I'm like,
race.
a
That's a
bike race.
race.
That's a
Yeah,
race.
bike race.
And
And
for
yeah,
me, and I'm only going to speak for myself, but when I'm in those situations in a race and I'm thinking, I've done that, like, okay, it's about to ramp up, or, I'm in a group of 6 dudes and it's like, oh, here's the sprint to the
yeah,
sprint to the sprint.
yeah,
When
yeah,
everything's popping out of your eyes are popping out of your head, it's like, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. And you win, it's like, whew, I can't believe I just did that. But you've done it
yeah,
all these other times. It's like, the dress rehearsal. So I think, kind of going back to the science and the experience, we've got to blend everything together. And I think, structure has a really good place, but it's also this go race, go do dress rehearsals, throw in some group rides. Like everybody needs something different. It's like you got to read the athlete if you really want to help them get to their top.
for sure.